Hey, a quick note before we start. Year end is here, which means it's time for my annual donation request spiel. If this podcast has been valuable to you, please visit exploreifs.com/donate. Your support keeps this work going and helps me provide coaching and resources to people who couldn't access it otherwise. And can't donate? No problem. Leave a review instead to help others find this content. All right, let's get into this week's episode. Welcome back to IFS Meditations and Insights. I'm Tim Fortescue, your guide on this journey toward wholeness through the lens of internal family systems. Together, we're creating a sacred space to explore, accept, and love all parts of ourselves. As we do this work, we open ourselves to experiencing divine love and living more authentically. Let's begin. Doing another special episode today, even though more and more interviews and folks normally are reaching out, but I reached out to Brian Jaudon, who is a mentor of mine. Just so grateful to reconnect. Yeah, often people reach out to me and there's not a lot of connection, so it's nice to have someone that I know. We're just going to sit down for a fireside type chat and have a conversation. But good to see you, Brian. And yeah, how you been doing?
Good to see you, Tim. Good to be with you. It's been a little while, but I'm doing well. It's been always an adventure, and I'm just trying to pay attention to the path as it reveals itself and being faithful to that.
Yeah, that's great. And are you in North Carolina?
I am in Western North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I'm about 20 minutes outside of a little town called Brevard, North Carolina, which is a sweet little mountain town. And I'm about an hour southwest of Asheville, which a lot of people know.
Yeah. And you and I mean, we cross paths. Well, my wife sent me, she's a therapist, and she has sent me stuff about IFS. And I was taking a sabbatical probably about 5 years ago and just kind of regrouping, recalibrating. She sent me an email of the IFS Institute promoting the Coaching for Self-Leadership course that you and Guthrie Sayin did live at the time. Tell you, you and I connected after that, and just really, you've been with me from the beginning of this journey, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. But would love for you, introduce yourself. And you've been around the IFS world for a long time, and so whatever makes sense to share there.
Yep, one of the old timers, I guess.
Well, tell us. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Brian Jaudon, and I still identify as we like to say as a coach these days, although I've been coaching in some form or another for about 30 years, and that has evolved what that looks like over the decades. But so I got introduced, a dear friend and mentor, Karen Blaché, who was is a former IFS lead trainer, introduced me to the IFS model. Oh gosh, probably 2001, 2002. And I ended up doing my level 1 IFS training, I think in 2003. And then level 2 the following year in 2004. And my level 1 training, I was very fortunate. My lead trainer was Susan McConnell, which, as many in the IFS universe know, is very closely connected to somatic IFS. I think she has a book out on somatic IFS. And we also, 2 of our modules in that level 1 were with Dick Schwartz. We did kind of combine 2 modules and spent a week in Chicago with Dick. And that was very, very formational in my early IFS training.
Yeah, well, and you had mentioned the coaching and identifying as a coach, me too, for that matter. And just tell a little more about that, like the coaching, incorporating IFS, and how's that work?
I mean, I was, I don't know, you may know this, Tim. I can't remember what we've chatted about around this in the past, but I actually was training to be a therapist in the late 90s. I was enrolled in the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Master of Social Work program, which happens to be one of the best MSW programs in the country. I have a real knack for leaving really prestigious programs and
Hmm.
not finishing them. And I've been a bit of a renegade or a rebel most of my career, and I've learned to embrace that over time. But I was about halfway through the UNC Chapel Hill MSW program, and I realized that was just not the right path for me. I mean, I'm glad I had that experience, but it, uh, is one of those, sometimes you don't know what your path is until you get on the wrong path and then you make a course correction. But and around, and also in the mid 90s, I did a lot of training in trauma work. I trained with a pioneer in the trauma field, a woman named Judith Johnson, who I call the most significant person in my life. She had just a profound impact on my personal life and my career. She's not a household name, but she was very much a pioneer and still is in that field. She's in her early 80s now and still teaching remotely. She was a contemporary of Peter Levine, who most folks know as the creator of somatic experiencing. Judith and Peter's work influenced each other a lot back in the 90s and early 2000s. And so that was hugely formational for me. So I'm a little bit of a rare bird and as a coach that I've had such intensive trauma training. And then that combined with the therapeutic training I had, our early therapeutic training. And then I think it was in the middle of my level one in 2003, I had the opportunity to do a train the trainer with uh, a German couple who came to the U.S. And did a train the trainer intensive, and they had combined 5 different models into a integrated system that they were taking very successfully into German corporations such as Chrysler. And IFS was one of those 5 frameworks. That training for me really showed me what was possible. That showed me that it was possible to combine several different, very innovative, powerful frameworks, including IFS, into a integrated system that I could take into organizations, which was uh, my path at the time. And I that's what I ended up doing. I ended up creating my own methodology, which is very IFS informed, but it has other frameworks in it as well, into a system for what I call whole system coaching. And that's what I've been mainly up to the last 4 or 5 years has been teaching that methodology along with faculty. I'm happy to say that we're a we now, not just a me.
Mm.
And so we've been teaching coaches around the globe this particular methodology for whole system coaching.
Well, and I mean, the renegade, having
Mm-hmm.
people like you, I mean, Brian and he's coached me for a long time for many
Mm-hmm.
sessions. And yeah, there are always parts of me because I'm one of those renegades. Where do I fit in? Where do I belong? Should I go back to social work or
Mm-hmm.
masters? And man, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And so it is just, you've been such an encouragement, yeah,
Mm.
to me there. And just, yeah, tell us more about your program. I mean, I know you've got the gifts and then lots
Mm-hmm.
of approaches, but yeah,
Yep.
the IFS, but how do you incorporate together? Tell us more about your program, what you're doing there.
Yeah, I'm happy to. But, first I want to say, Tim, it's just been a delight to watch your path evolve and, for you to embrace your gifts, your particular gifts, and which may include a renegade or a similar rebel part as mine. But, we each, as coaches and practitioners, we each have what I call an energetic signature. And I think part of our evolution as coaches and practitioners of any kind is to really live into that energetic signature. So, in the case of the methodology that my faculty and I teach, it's all centered around a visioning process. So, I had an experience in my 20s. I spent most of my 20s in inner city Washington, D.C., working as a journalist. That was my first career. And I also was very immersed in three different faith communities. These were Christian-based communities, one of which was founded in the inner city of DC in, I think, the 1950s, called Church of the Savior. And it was, a big part of their theology was that anyone in the community, not just people in leadership, could have a vision. And what they would do is they would form small groups around anyone who said, I have a vision. They called them mission groups, and they would sort of prayerfully hold the vision with this person for months and perhaps even years, and begin to really um, hold the vision in a way, in a collective way, for these visions to manifest in the world. And I saw miracles happen in the inner city. I just kept seeing all these amazing things emerge, programs and offerings. And that experience must have stayed with me, because when I sat down about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago to begin to really put all the puzzle pieces together into the methodology that we now teach, the visioning that I witnessed came front and center. It was sort of like, I believe that these methodologies and frameworks, like everything, have their own consciousness. And the consciousness of the visioning came right to the center and basically said, this is what is going to be at the core. So, our methodology really is designed to create what I call internal and external alignment around any given vision. And vision typically, and what I've observed, is some combination of what am I ready to create, who am I ready to become, and what do I want to feel and experience along the way. That's what I call the state of being dimension of the vision. Or if it's more than one person, if it's a couple or a team or an organization or a community, the same principles apply. I'm actually going to go meet later today with a husband and wife who own a small retreat center about 20 minutes from me, and they host couples who come on these luxury retreats. And but they have a program team. So to do offerings for these couples who come for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. And I've been kind of sitting on this idea of doing an offering for couples to help them create a shared vision for their relationship. And so I shared that with one of the owners, and I said, I think I have an idea that might appeal to you. And she loved it. So she said, well, I want you to do it with me and my husband. And so this is sort of and I'm doing that later today.
Yeah.
And that'll be the prototype. So if it goes as well as we both think it's going to go, we're going to make that something on their menu for couples who come on retreat, which will be awesome, because I've never done it before. I've never offered it before. And that's the thing with visions. Visions are a living, breathing entity and have their own, even the vision has its own consciousness, and the vision can evolve over time. Just as we evolve, the vision can evolve.
Yeah, I love that. And such a beautiful area.
Mhm.
I grew up, as Brian knows, just down the road from where he is in South Carolina. And
Mhm.
yeah, often I know when I'm PAing in these trainings, or we have to
Mhm.
do the unburdening exercise, my little 7-year-old,
Right.
that area, yeah, they're in upstate South Carolina. Such a beautiful place. I didn't know till I got away, but
Mhm.
yeah, but the visioning, and I remember you with me, there was a time when we were coaching and you said, I mean, there was an imaginative exercise, and
Yeah.
imagine your people.
Guided process. Yeah, we help people access a future energetic state, actually, in the guided meditation process, and that could be, we allow the individual or the group to decide what time in the future they want to access, whether it's 6 months or a year or 5 years, and we say, okay, we kind of guide them to access that future energetic state. And then from there, information begins to download, so to speak, and fills in the gaps. So we access that state without really knowing much about our vision. And then the information and the data comes once we access that. And then from there, we clarify a written statement. Usually it's 1 to 3 sentences. Although those others who are rule breakers, as well as me and you,
Mhm.
often go longer, and that's fine. But so this and the vision gets clarified, usually in written form, and it has to meet 5 criteria for the vision, which are, if I can remember them, bold, clear, succinct, compelling, and inspiring. And once we meet the threshold of those 5 criteria, then we bring in IFS almost immediately, and we say, okay, now that we have the vision, let's ask your system, let's invite any parts of you that have any energy at all, good, bad, or indifferent, around the vision, to come forward and to tell us who they are. So typically, once the vision is clarified, there are often parts that are full spectrum, parts that are excited, enthusiastic, can't wait, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which are parts that are terrified and are afraid of what might happen if the person lives into that vision. And then all the parts in between, parts that might be skeptical or pragmatic, or like, well, it sounds good, but how is that going to happen? Or, maybe an imposter part, like that's not for us, that's for someone else. Or a part that feels is too grandiose or maybe too small. So a whole range of parts. So we invite all those parts to make themselves known and create what we call a vision parts map. And that really brings into awareness the parts that will need to be befriended, to borrow a term from IFS, in order to fully live into the vision, because we can't fully live into the vision if we're not, again, whole system coaching, if we're not inviting parts that have any hesitation or resistance or fear around the vision to be fully witnessed and met with love and compassion. The vision is typically not fully lived into. That's part of the visioning, what we call the visioning series, is the identification and befriending of the parts.
Yeah, well, I think of that often. And now, I mean, you know me, I've always got parts that say, oh,
Yeah.
there's more to go, or
Hmm.
we've got, and I'm aware of that. But yeah, I think of you often of that. Yeah, just I forget how you word it, but yeah, fine. Imagine your people
Yeah.
like coming behind you. And now, I mean, when we were doing that, no idea I'd be inviting you on a podcast that
Mhm.
people listen to. And uh,
And that gets into a little bit of the gifts too, Tim. But you were asking about other aspects of our methodology.
yes,
The gift development piece is another, what we would call, pillar of our methodology, and that's all about discovering and developing those innate abilities and superpowers that we came into the world with. We didn't need to go to a training or a school or to acquire those abilities and gifts. They're innate to who we are. So a big part of our process is to help people really invite into their awareness and consciousness all the abilities that they're going to need. Again, we can't fulfill our vision without our gifts. It's not possible in my experience. And so we have a whole process for bringing those into one's awareness, and then we map those gifts to a framework that we call the 5 stages of gift development, which is a developmental framework that's very, very essential to really fully uh, again, as with everything, the gifts have their own consciousness, just like parts do. And often there's a lot of parts activity around gifts because the gifts are so powerful. So again, we bring in IFS to do what we call, so we identify the gifts, we map them to the 5 stages, we coach. So the 5 stages are, if I could just name them quickly, are
please.
invoking or inviting the gifts to make themselves known. It's essentially the state of, I am ready to know my gifts. And then the second stage is clarifying the essence of the gift. What is the gift truly about? And then inviting, or receiving or claiming the gift. Just because we have a gift doesn't mean we've fully received it into our being. And then honoring the gift in our life and our work, and then offering the gift in the world. And as with many developmental frameworks, we're often in multiple stages at one time. And we often go through the stages multiple times with any particular gift. And then, so that's part of the gift series, the gift development series. And then again, similar to the vision, with any given gift, we invite parts that have attached themselves to that gift, or might be protectors, or might be terrified of the gift. Or, I mean, there are some parts that their entire job is to make sure the gift never sees the light of day.
Yeah. And I'm loving this, by the way. Keep talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So that's a really important part. So again, just like with the vision parts, we invite, for any given gift, any part that has any energy at all around a particular gift, to come forward and to be witnessed and acknowledged in a non-judging, non-shaming way. And often these parts are highly protected around the gifts. So they're and so we work, that's part of the coaching engagement, is to work with the gift related parts. So again, the gifts can have full expression, because if the gifts can have full expression, then that allows us to really fully live into our vision.
Yeah, and this is coming back to me now from some of our other conversations, but yeah, the claiming, the
Mm-hmm.
honoring, I'm still
Mm-hmm.
growing a lot in that, and then offering it to the world. But yeah, so powerful.
It is.
And do the archetypes, it's funny, I do some meditations on Insight Timer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think you mentioned that. And then I looked, and here I am. I'm on there like 4,000 followers, I think.
I
And
love it.
it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, not, well,
Amazing.
maybe it is to toot
We
my
have,
horn a little
we
bit,
have like 12 followers, I think I remember.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It blows me away.
I
But
love
I
it.
was on there, and I do these lives once a week, and sometimes my little boy from Appalachia comes out, and
Mm-hmm.
someone was talking about archetypes, and I said
Mm-hmm.
archetypes. And I don't
Yeah.
think I even knew exactly how to say that before I met you. But where do the archetypes come in?
Yeah, great segue, by the way. So, yeah, so the archetypes, so I've been working with archetypes for a couple of decades, even before I put this whole system and methodology together. So, archetypes, as some of your folks may know, have been around forever. I think the term was maybe coined by Carl Jung, if I'm not mistaken. But there have been people like Joseph Campbell and Carolyn Mace and Carol Pearson and others who have really done a lot of really foundational work with archetypes. I was particularly impacted by Carolyn Mace's work, her book, Sacred Contracts, which I highly recommend if you're at all drawn to working with archetypes, is really kind of for me like a Bible of archetypes. And I remember that book's been out a while, but it's kind of one of my primary texts and resources. But archetypes are essentially aspects of our psyche. You could say they're parts. I think that's a fair way, but they're particular category of parts. And these are just, again, very similar to the gifts innate to us. We came into the world with, I believe, a particular set of archetypes. And so part of our methodology, which is part of a larger framework that we call mapping your internal influences. And these are 8 very powerful categories of, if you look through the IFS lens, they're categories of parts. I actually created this framework before I found IFS in 2003, but it happens to be highly symbiotic and complementary to IFS. So, and similar to, I think Dick's talked about his experience of the IFS framework coming out of his session work with clients. That was very much true in my case. So one of my gifts is to see patterns. And so I saw patterns in my early clients, and out of that emerged a framework of this mapping these internal influences. And these are, just aspects of our system, our psyche, archetypes being one of those. So for instance, with archetypes, common ones are hero, warrior, poet, mystic, priest, loyal friend, etc. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of potential archetypes. We see them all over, in children's books and movies and books, and for hundreds of years, archetypes have been around before we kind of had this language, you might say. But I find it a really powerful process to help someone identify what are the archetypes that are part of who I am, part of my, what we might say our DNA or our personal blueprint, and how do I show up in the world from these particular archetypes, and am I doing so consciously or unconsciously? As is often talked about, every archetype has a healthy expression as well as what we might call the shadow expression of any given archetype. So, and most people don't know what their archetypes are. So this is often a new discovery for them. But again, we need our archetype. We need a conscious, healthy partnership with our archetypes to fulfill our vision. So that's why we've included it in the mapping your internal influences framework, along with others. There's other categories. One is called vows and promises, which is related to the vows that we made earlier in life, again, consciously or unconsciously, that have a profound impact on how we show up in life. So we bring those into the person's awareness or into the light, sometimes I say. And then in all of these categories, once we've brought them into the person's awareness, then we can do a conscious evaluation of whether they are aligned with the vision, congruent with the vision, or perhaps misaligned with the vision. And any of these influences that are not aligned, we can work with the parts, so to speak, so that they can be aligned with the vision. So that's really the spirit. I call the mapping your internal influences an inventory and renegotiation process. And with these 8 categories, we do a very robust inventory for each person. And by the way, every coach who goes through our training does this for themselves. So they clarify their own vision for themselves as a coach. They identify their gifts. They work with their own internal influences to bring all of those into alignment with their vision, etc. So, we believe so. And by the way, I don't know if we've mentioned, but in case it's helpful, the name of our coaching institute is Pisgah Coaching Institute. It's Pisgah. But those are kind of the main pillars of the methodology, along with another pillar that we call creating the roadmap. And that really is kind of, ensuring that, we could have a beautiful vision, but how will we know we're living into our vision? And that's where the roadmap comes in, which teases out some mile markers for letting any person know that they are indeed living into their vision. So there's lots of other ancillary parts of the architecture, but those are the main pillars.
And just tell us more about how people can, find it, and then kind of how it's structured. And I'm intrigued. I told you in an email, I'm intrigued by this. And so, just share a little more about how people can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're now completing. So we're going to change things up in 2026. For the past 3 years, we've had year-long cohorts. It's a 12-month experience or 12-month journey, so to speak. 9 months of formal training followed by 3 months of group supervision. Very, very, a lot of moving parts, incredibly comprehensive. But we're changing things up to make it a little bit more accessible in 2026. We're going to offer the training in standalone modules, with the exception that the visioning module will be a prerequisite for the other modules that teach the subsequent pillars of the methodology. So in other words, visioning will be a prerequisite. Someone could take just the visioning and say, hey, that's all I need. But if you want to go a little further, those who've taken the visioning series or the visioning module will then be eligible to take the gift development module, or the mapping your internal influences model, or the roadmap module. And then we're offering another standalone module that we're calling Fundamentals of Coaching. And someone can enroll in that as a standalone module. And we teach things like 3 core competencies of coaching: presence, attunement, and illumination. We teach 3 levels of contracting with clients. We teach 7 dimensions of trust for the coach, etc. So there's some fundamental pieces of the architecture that we're going to be teaching in that particular series. So, if someone feels drawn and interested, I would say go to the website, which is pisgahcoaching.com. That's Pisgah coaching.com. We have a brand new webpage that talks about these offerings, and then, let us know if you have questions. So we're going to start enrolling that. I don't know when this will broadcast, but early November we'll begin enrollment, and in that series. It'll start January of 2026, starting with the Vision series, which is a 3-part series. In February, we'll do the gift development and so on. So we'll run these modules January through May of 2026. We'll see where we want to go from there.
When my plans to get this out a week from tomorrow.
Mhm.
So hopefully, yeah, that'll be good timing there. Yep. And so, well, what else regarding that? Or
That's plenty on that. I mean, I feel like that's a good. Thank you for asking. I mean, I
yeah,
appreciate you. But yeah, I'm happy to just whatever comes to mind for either of us, Tim, in terms of anything that you think might be of interest to folks who listen or watch this podcast interview. Anything, I'm happy to
yeah.
go wherever.
Well, what if I turn it no pressure? Do you have any questions? Let's flip the role a little bit, or anything there. Any questions there, and then we'll
Well, I would
see where it goes.
say, I guess, if I go to curiosity, which is a good place to go in the realm of IFS, I have a curiosity of just kind of what you're seeing in I think do you still do both individual sessions and group sessions, Tim?
Yes.
Yeah. So what are you observing that are on the minds and hearts of the people that you work with? What are the things what are people navigating? Are you seeing any patterns with what people are navigating in your individual sessions, your group sessions? What kind of things are on people's minds and hearts these days from your vantage point?
Yeah, I love that. And I do have parts that, like, why did you just do this? You could have had control and moved on. But yeah, but I would say for me, most of my work is individual. And where I am in my practice now, there is momentum, like of
Hmm.
people wanting more group coaching. And so I have a
Hmm.
couple groups that that I'm doing there. But with both of those, I would say, and it's going to seem kind of general, but first of
Hmm.
all, spirituality is a
Hmm. Yeah.
big space. Not that people have to be spiritual with this model, but people are looking for, well, for community and connection of the same type of people who say, like, where do I fit in this world,
Hmm.
both individually and in those group sessions? And their parts are finding they're not alone. They're finding that they're not alone, but I use beloved a lot.
Hmm.
And I joke sometimes when I don't know how it is now with AI and all, but used to when there was just regular word and autocorrect, I would type that in and it would say beloved mess. And I think there's something to that. And I find though that people are finding that we're all human, that we all belong. Yeah, we've got burdens and we mess up, but there's a place. And maybe this is general, but that's it. Like, we're
Yeah.
beloved, we belong, and there's a community of people who can accept me too. And it's just been a beautiful thing. I'm finding that. I mean, as you know from our work, I'm finding my tribe and community as I'm able to teach and lead and honor those gifts in me. And it's just, I'm loving offering it to the world and learning right alongside of people. So is that
Yeah.
helpful? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's spot on. And honestly, for me, there's nothing better in
Yeah.
life to find, to live into what I sometimes call our divine contract, which is, why are we on the planet? Uh, and to be in some way actively discovering that every day. I know for me, it's continuously evolving, but I think that's where our greatest joy and our greatest satisfaction and fulfillment comes from, is being in that endeavor in some way. I love the quote, which you may know, from Howard Thurman, who was an African American theologian, among other things. And the quote is, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, because that's what the world needs, is people who have truly come alive."
Yeah. And there's so much life
Hmm.
underneath all the cloudiness or burdens. And I'm really Yeah, I'm experiencing that now. And often people will listen or people will even jump on a consult and they're like, wow, I can't believe you actually make time. And I'm in my basement in southern Wisconsin. My 4 kids are out there watching a video right now because they're out of school because my wife is seeing clients. She left the house, but just for quiet. And my point is that I'm in it right there with you, and I'm just a few steps ahead, but as if to those that are listening. And finding people like you, and I don't mean to keep praising, I know it's kind of awkward, but I really mean it, of that can be ahead of me, believe in me, help me believe in myself,
Absolutely.
and able to share that with others. It's a beautiful thing. But yeah, there's not a big setup here.
Yeah, and we don't have to do it alone. That's the great thing. I don't think we're supposed to do it alone. I think that's
Yeah.
where community and finding our tribe comes in. And I think that and what we put out in the world is not for everyone, as you and I both know. I often say, that if my gifts and um, methodology, even if I'm just looking at the coaches around, I actually Googled a couple of months ago how many, what the estimate of how many coaches there are around the planet, which of course is hard to pinpoint. As you and I both know, the coaching industry has exploded over the last decade plus. But even within that community of coaches, if I could, my intention is to find the 0.0001% of coaches that would most benefit from what we're doing in the world, which
Yeah.
is and that would keep me busy for the rest of my life. But and for me, around the vision based or the vision centered methodology that we teach is, I think, aging pretty well, because especially given where we are in our history as a here in the US and then just globally, there's so much uncertainty and chaos and unpredictability that in some ways clarifying and living into our vision is the most revolutionary act that we can do.
Yeah.
And to ground in our vision can be quite a radical act, I think, in the face of great uncertainty. As someone once wrote, without a vision, the people perish. And that may not be, literal, but I mean, again, without a vision, we are lost a little bit, I think. And I know I am. I mean, I think we can, I think there's a place for just, spontaneity and intuition. Absolutely. But I think for me, the vision is a really key part of the equation of how to navigate life at any point of our journey here. So, that keeps me busy for the most part, is to one, do that for myself, for the team of people that I work with, that I'm blessed to work with, and to do that with the people that we serve.
Yeah. Yeah. And that vision, I realized the time. I got this big clock in front of me. So I want to honor your time and both of our bladders. But
I'm
the
good there. Thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, let's go. If it's all right, we'll go a couple more minutes. But yeah, and that vision is at our core. I mean, that self, that beautiful mystery. All of this is a beautiful mystery, but it's there.
And
It's
collective
true.
vision as well, not just individual vision, but
Yeah.
who do we want to be as a community, however we define community,
Yeah.
whether that's a neighborhood or a region or larger, or just as humans. I think it's so important. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
biased, but for me, that's an important part of our journey and our discovery process every single day.
Yeah. What really is, and I remember, yeah, in some of our work together, and yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing this stuff, seeing what sticks, and it starts to stick in many ways. But then that structure and the questions that you brought were so helpful. And then my ADD,
Mm.
ADHD kicks in a little bit, but I was going somewhere really profound with that. But yeah, that it does. It sticks. It's there. And here, I'm back now. I remember joking, like asking you, like, can you really make money at this? Not that it's all about money, but we got to make a living. Do coaches make money? Because I hear so much about people. I'm doing this, but I'm also doing that. And I want to hear, like, coaches that are listening, there's a place for this
Absolutely.
and for your vision. And so, whatever you want to share about that, and would like to hear kind of the Institute, the coaching track. And I know you've had a little involvement in that.
For
And
the IFS
yeah,
Institute,
yeah,
sure.
if there's
Yeah.
anything to share there.
Yeah, well, I would say, at the highest level, I believe there are certain universal laws that are at work. And one of those is the law of giving and receiving. So for me, at the highest level, is to invite a right relationship with giving and receiving in our life. And that's the ability to give our gifts and our wisdom and our love and money when we can, and also be open to receiving from life as well. That to be in a healthy, right relationship with giving and receiving, whether we're coaches or something else, teachers, parents, whatever the case may be. But that living into right relationship with giving and receiving is, to me, where it begins, and then trusting that we have something of value to offer. And again, a vision can help with that, but there also are also very tangible things that we need. We need a roadmap for what that looks like, and to trust that we will find our audience. There are people that are waiting for our gifts, and that if we can, and even begin to tap into, and I think this is part of, we do a guided meditation around gifts, just as we do with vision. And I believe part of that meditation is to invite people to energetically attune to the people that are waiting for their gifts and waiting for their
And
offerings.
this is what we did a little bit of, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can do that and trust that our audience is out there, and again, it's not for everyone, but for the right people, it can be life changing and transformational, and learn to trust that.
Yeah. So cool. That's great. And I was curious too, just some of the Institute stuff and the track, and how's that going, or any
Yeah, well,
insight?
I'm not as plugged in at the moment as I was, say, maybe this time last year, but I was part of a subject matter experts team in 2024 to help the IFS Institute conceptualize and design and begin to deliver an IFS coaching training, which is now, I think, in its third iteration, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken. So that's a long time in coming. I remember having conversations with the Institute, over a decade ago, really nudging and encouraging to jump on this coaching bandwagon because I knew the audience was there. And they just were not ready in those early years, but they're ready now, and they've assembled a really talented group of coaches and practitioners and subject matter experts who are now delivering the training. They have mentors. I was a mentor for their first cohort. I hope to be again at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see the Institute living into that part of its mission, serving that audience, which I think is very needed. It's different than what I do, and I think they're complementary. My faculty and I teach a blended methodology that's very IFS informed. We don't teach an IFS coaching training, so that's really where the Institute comes in my mind. But I think I'm excited to see how their training is evolving with each iteration, and I think it's much needed.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, I'm excited to see where that goes to, for
Mm.
sure. Well, anything else?
No, I can't think of anything. It's great to see you and reconnect with you. I hope it's okay to say proud of you
For sure.
for just how your path has evolved. And I love seeing you offer your gifts in the world, Tim. They're very much needed.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's so okay to say. And so I appreciate that. And I'm going to take that in. And
Mm.
yeah, give us your website one more time.
Yep. It's Pisgah, Pisgah Coaching, all one word, all lowercase, .com.
Okay, and I'll put that in the notes too, but thanks so much, Brian, and yeah, so great to reconnect.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be with you.
That wraps up another episode of IFS Meditations and Insights. If you found value in today's session, please follow, subscribe, and share with others who might benefit. Your positive review helps more people discover this healing work. For more IFS meditations and resources, and to join the faithfully growing community, visit exploreifs.com. Until next time, be gentle with yourself.